Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right. Or the other way around.
Good to go?
Yeah.
You are? Good morning, everybody. I'd like to start off by welcoming our new commissioner, Mr. Joel McCormick. Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
And I'd like to call to order the Finance and Administration Committee. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson,
Here.
Mr. Beggs,
Here.
Mr. McCormick,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Hardy.
Here. I'd ask for approval of the meeting minutes from September 26, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support Walker.
Motion by Beggs, support by Walker. Everybody I'm sure go through those. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Moving on, are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the current agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Erickson,
I'll support.
support by Beggs. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Is there any public comment at this time for the Finance and Administration Committee?
Hi.
Hello.
I have one. Some of you may remember me. My name is Laura Ackerman. I am the district manager for Oceana Conservation District. Do you want me to say our address?
If you would, please.
1064 Industrial Park Drive, Shelby, 49455.
Thank you.
And I am here to speak about our current budget request and the work that we do. I know I came in last month and I introduced myself. I feel like I'm a little bit behind the ball, and that's hard for me in my transition. I'm a very punctual person. So I wanted to come in and just say, I know that we have put in a budget request for an increase this year, and that our funding has been about the same over the last 10 to 15 years, at about $15,000 a year. I wanted to make a comment about the work that we do, which is we have basically served the community since our inception. Every 5 years, we do a conservation needs assessment. We ask the community, what's important to you? And what we heard back was water quality, invasive species management, wildlife habitat, forest health, and green space preservation. And I think these are things that we can all appreciate and understand the importance of as we depend on the land for our own survival. So the way that we go about this is kind of a three-pronged approach. We do education, we do action through stewardship, and we do resource gathering and distribution in the community. So our education programs look like, how do we show farmers how to properly store and dispose of all the toxic things that they encounter? It looks like, how do we help landowners manage their forests and their other properties to create wildlife habitat? And we also have educational programs that Carrie spoke about last time I was here that engage community members from age 2 to 102, bringing people into natural spaces and saying, what do we have here that is so special in Oceana County, and how can you help support it? We do stewardship action like planting trees, removing invasive species, building buildings for people to store chemicals, picking up and disposing of chemicals. And then the resource part, we actually bring in money from a lot of different places and we put it back out. And we bring it in to do things like caring for the land that has been donated to the conservation district, that we have turned into nature preserves for people to spend time in the natural landscape and make connections with that space so that they have a real connection to it too. We do landowner assistance so that we can help people do things that actually have great economic profit, but not great financial profit. Ecological is what I need to say, amazing ecological profit. And then also we help people treat invasive species, and we've actually done work with the Drain Commission through a cost share program that we have. So we work with other governmental agencies to provide these services. I feel like we've been able to grow through partnerships with nonprofits, with businesses, with other government organizations. And I know Susie has been asking for more money every year. And I totally appreciate that maybe fiscal year 2025 isn't a year that you have a glut of extra money and financial budget discussions are difficult and they're complicated. So I can totally appreciate that nature of it. I also want to say thank you for the support that we've been getting. It's integral to our work. And I just wanted to put in a little plea to say, would you consider, if not this year, a commitment to a 5 or 10% increase yearly for the next 5 to 10 years? And that would help us maintain the program that we do, continue to serve the land that we have been donated to be able to develop it and make it available for the entire community. And I just want to say, in the end, I feel like, I know these decisions are hard, but choosing to support the land that supports us can never be a loss. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, please reach out if you have questions or comments for me.
Okay, moving on.
Got more public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Morris.
Well, good morning.
Morning, Phil.
A little different being on this side of the table, but no, appreciate it. I'm speaking to you this morning on behalf of, as the OCEA chair. You have a proposal before you that Richard and Curtis are going to be presenting, and I wanted to speak in support of it. I'll give you a very practical reason that's happening actually right now. We have the breakfast tomorrow, the OCEA breakfast that you're all invited to, and I know some of you have signed up. I believe that Curtis's time is best spent meeting with businesses, meeting with business owners, getting to know more about what grant opportunities there are available to people in our area. But what he's working on right now is this breakfast, and he needs to, because that's who we have on our staff, and we got to have that work to be done. But that's just one practical example. And there's many other times during the year that those are the sorts of things, more administrative type tasks that he's working on, that we're not utilizing him in where he's actually best gifted and best going to be a good resource for our community. So just want to give you that very practical chance and feedback. So appreciate your time, and it's good to see you guys.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, moving on now. Audit presentation. Mr. Ian Reese,
We're having issues with the TV part.
for our audience in attendance, we have an audit presentation via Zoom from Mr. Ian Reese, Cambridge and Company. We're just having a little trouble getting it set up so he can view it as well.
Hi, Ian. Hold on a second.
You able to hear it all?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
So we are having issues with our TV going here, so commissioners can't see you, but I'm gonna turn you around so they can.
Okay.
Alright?
Is it my turn to go?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So I believe all of you should have a copy of the audit in front of you, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay. And what I'll do is just go over our opinion of the audit and then just a few kind of the financial highlights for the fiscal year, and then answer any questions you have. So if you have any questions as I go through it, just let me know. If you open up to page 1, it's about 3 pages in, but it is page number 1. It's called the Independent Auditor's Report. I won't read it all to you, but basically it's the report where we state what our opinion is, and the opinion for the county was that you received an unmodified opinion, which is the technical term for a clean opinion. It's the best opinion the county could receive. So in essence, everybody passed the audit and there weren't any issues. So kudos to everybody involved. You go a few more pages down to page 6. This is the management discussion and analysis section, and it kind of goes over the high-level numbers of the county and where it stands financially. So if you look at the financial highlight bullet points, we'll look at the first one. The assets and deferred outflows of the county exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows by about 25 million, a little bit over that. Of the 25 million, 12 million is available as unrestricted net position, meaning it's equity you have in the county that can be used for anything. There's no restrictions on it. The difference between the 25 and the 12 million is largely built up of your capital assets or some of your governmental funds that are restricted for roads or some other type of restriction. Second bullet point, the county's net position increased by about 7 million. Well, under that, your revenues were 625 or 6.2 million, and the expenses were. I'm confused on what this is saying. I think your revenues were 6.25 and your expenses increased 1.5 million from the prior fiscal year. And all that correlates into your increase in that position. You had excess revenues over expenditures for the fiscal year. At the close of the current fiscal year, the county's governmental funds had combined fund balances, meaning excess revenues over, or excess assets over liabilities of about 12 million, which was an increase of 2.2 million over the prior fiscal year. 53% of it, or 6.5 million, is available for use at discretion of the county and the Board of Commissioners. That's what we call unassigned fund balance. If we take your unassigned fund balance as a ratio of your annual expenditures for the year in the general fund, it equates to about 51%, meaning that if for whatever reason you receive no income, you would survive about 51% of the next fiscal year. So it's a sizable fund balance where you're not going to have cash issues, but it's also not too large to where you're just sitting on a bunch of cash doing nothing with it. You go down a few more pages to page 9. This is the county statement of net position, and it compares it to the prior fiscal year, so it compares 23 to 22. The main changes were your cash balances increased by about 1.65 million, 1.6 million, and that's largely due to you had excess revenues over expenditures in your governmental funds of about 6 million, and then you spent a lot of your unearned revenue, and that largely correlates to the change in cash. Your unearned revenue decreased about 1.2 million, and that was just due to you spending a lot of your ARPA funding for the year, and accordingly your unearned revenue decreased. Your pension liability increased by about 3.4 million. The largest factor to that is that there was a decrease in your investment income for the calendar year that the pension plan runs on. We use a 2022 calendar year for your 23 fiscal year, just because that's how pensions are evaluated each year. It always lags back 1 year. So for the 23 fiscal year, you'll probably, or 24 fiscal year, 23 calendar year, you'll have an increase in your pension assets because the market did a lot better. One more page down, page 10, this is your statement of changes in that position. It shows your revenues and your expenditures and compares them to the prior fiscal year. You can see that your charges for services and your operating grants increased a fair amount. Your operating grants went up because of your ARPA funding. You're spending your ARPA funding. Your taxes increased a bit, about 400,000. And then beyond that, your expenses were pretty comparable to the previous fiscal year. It increased about $1 million, or a little bit over $1 million in the aggregate. So, as far as I'm concerned, the only other thing I would show you is page 15 all the way through page 19, these are your basic financial statements, and it shows in a little bit more detail your funds as a whole and all of the revenues, assets, expenses, liabilities for each specific fund. If you wanted to see more detail on it. You had no findings for your federal audit. We had the ARPA fund as your major program this year, and there were no findings on that. So all in all, the audit went pretty well. Any questions on anything?
Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, this is Bob Walker, and you talked about the fund revenue we had, you know, the $6 million in that. But we have to keep in mind that we need that for operating funds for the next fiscal year until we get our taxes coming back in again. It's not as if it's all excessive funds. It's money that we need to operate on until the tax come in the following year.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we take it as a ratio of your expenditures to show that you have cash to operate on until the next amount of money comes back in.
Okay, thank you.
So the thing that people might wonder about is if it was at 300%, where you would survive 3 years without receiving income. But as it stands now, you're at about 50% of your operating funding. So I agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Tracy?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Okay,
Ian.
thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of the morning.
You too.
All right, moving on, Mr. Raffaelli, Shelby Township Supervisor, Shelby Township. Close facility appropriations discussed.
Good morning, Richard.
Morning, Richard Raffaelli, 905 South 96th Avenue in Shelby. Joel's my neighbor. So I'm not on the Economic Alliance board. I was on the board, and I'm no longer, haven't been there for a couple of years. So I'm talking to you from a perspective of Shelby Township. So our request is simple in nature but complicated to execute. We need to continually drive a positive economic impact in Oceana County, and the only way we're going to do that is to hire an additional support for Curtis, and we're not talking administration hours. Right now, the county supports that position with 10 hours. I think 10 hours a week in administration. We need a bright person that can go after additional grants. And as Phil said, while Curtis continues to work with new employers, bringing in new money into our county. So let me give you some specifics. Right now, with the Economic Alliance, they've been successfully bringing in roughly $122 million in new investment into our county in the last 3 years, with another additional $100 million in acquisition investment, which doesn't show on this document, in excess of $48 million in grant money. Now, everyone makes the argument when you hear about grant money, it's our tax dollars. But it's our tax dollars that would have gone to Detroit or another state. Yes, it's our dollars, but it's our dollars coming back to Oceana County. So I, for one, am a proponent that Oceana County is deserving of these dollars to build infrastructure. And we've seen a lot of infrastructure built in the last 3 years between water pipelines, housing, parks, all different things. And here's potentially a county department. You only have one other department that pays for itself, which is the building department. Every other department, although important departments, I'm not putting them down, are a cost center. So now, all of a sudden, we have a department that actually shows real dollars coming into our county. We need to continually invest in the county to show growth. Right now, you're sitting on 600,000 incremental tax dollars. Part of it is based on the tax roll and the value of property going up, and part of it is brand new dollars of new housing and growth within certain townships that you'll continually see those tax dollars going up and up and up. And the housing development in Shelby, it's forecasted that the county will receive 225,000 additional annualized dollars once those houses are filled. So there's a benefit to having infrastructure, taxpayers, and more importantly, a department that has a real return on investment, a gargantuan return on investment. In business, I can only dream of utopia of this type of return, and each of you have, this document in front of you. So we're requesting an annualized impact of $70,000 a year, roughly a $55,000 a year employee, with related costs and on costs. It's going to turn out to be about 71,000. That person worked for the county instead of the right place, so the county has control of that individual, that position. That position reports into Curtis and the administrator, of course. And if this was a go, then the county administrator and Curtis would develop the job description and go through the hiring process of this individual. But one person alone cannot deliver these type of dollars anymore. We're going to be stalled, moving forward. And the problem with dollars is once you start, you get on that roll of receiving dollars and building infrastructure, you need to continually work twice as hard to get those dollars back and show growth. So this is a worthwhile investment that this county, cannot refuse. The numbers are extremely compelling. I understand that your budgets are tight, but we have to show growth, and the commissioners are here to make life better for the taxpayers, and probably more importantly, the taxpayers 20 years from now. And these type of infrastructure dollars for our children, grandchildren, etc., not just for today. Some of those dollars we're reaping the benefits, the taxpayers are reaping the benefits today, and some of them they'll reap the benefits 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. We build a border pipeline, that's good for 100 years. We build a park, that's good for 100 years. We build housing, that's good technically for 80 to 100 years. So all these projects are important, and they cannot be done without some sort of assistance from the government, and probably just as important, private sector coming in and showcasing Oceana County. Purdue Foods, Curtis directly negotiated the Purdue Foods deal. So to put it in perspective, when they start making, not when they start making dog treats, right now, because I just looked at their last tax assessment, they have an $80,000 impact a year, a positive impact to what the previous tax roll was to our county. And 30,000 of that 80,000 goes directly to the school. So again, investment dollars to children, investment dollars to roads, investment dollars that we didn't have today. So, you make the argument at $80,000 a year, Curtis has paid for his salary just on this one deal, never mind the multitude of deals. So I've received some pre-questions regarding, when is the Economic Alliance going to be self-funded? And I say the Economic Alliance should absolutely never be self-funded. This is self-funding it. The Economic Alliance needs to be 100% supported by the county, because what you're doing is just investing dollars in our community and the growth of our community. We cannot sit still anymore, as we've done over the last little while, and go, we're just going to pay the bills. And I'm not shaming anyone, so please don't take those comments negatively. but we know of many boards that just sit there and just status quo throughout the county, and they don't think about the bigger picture. And I'm challenging this group to think about the larger picture of investment and the impact your decision can have on our county. And don't wait. You know, waiting for Q1 or Q2. Just today, while we're sitting here, some MDART grants came out. Now is the time the grants are coming out. And literally just sitting here, I'm on the MDART distribution list, and MDART announced a land grant for any companies or individuals that are involved in agriculture. So now's the time. We could not have done the housing project without Curtis. Again, $225,000 a year. This is just for the county. Never mind the village. The village alone, I think, was an additional $70,000 a year in the township, an additional $12,000 a year in taxes. So, and these are tax-paying citizens that are going to vote. They're going to shop locally. You know, all the beautiful things we want to see as a community. Go to the churches. You know, do all the right things. So we want to see more and more taxpayers and growth. We're never going to be Grand Rapids. We're not going to be a suburb of Grand Rapids. We don't want to be a suburb of Grand Rapids. If we are, I'm packing up ship and I'm going to the UP. So, but we have to show growth. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. So we're asking you for $71,000 a year. Carve it out somewhere, figure it out. We can't afford not to jump on this, and I'm going to ask that the board, or the commission, excuse me, ask Tracy to create a resolution and vote, you know, at your 11:30 meeting on the positive attributes of this, and vote for a forward-thinking, you know, Oceana County. I'm open to questions.
This probably isn't for Richard, but more for Tracy. Do we have a space to put this employee? Just looking at the logistical, you know, it's not a big issue, but do we have a place for the person to go if we hire him?
Not within the building. If, I know that Curtis has, some space over at the, Griswold building. So I don't know, and I know he's not there often, so I don't know if that person would be able to utilize.
If you're stuck with an office, Peterson Farms will give you an office. If that's gonna be the holdup all day long, I'll give you an office.
Well, I don't think it'd be a hang up. I think we could find a place. We've got some shuffling going on. I know right now, Veterans Affairs is using your office when you're not there for their part-time VSO that was just hired. But we've got a whole bunch of shuffling around going on in that building soon anyway.
Just
Yes,
rapidly,
Mr. Hardy.
I'm not familiar with some of the grants, but is there anything in the grants that allows for some of the grant money to be used for the administration of the grant?
It depends on the grant. So there's some federal grants when you do, you know, water infrastructure, housing infrastructure, et cetera, they allow some money for, it's a great question, for administration of those grants. So part of that funding, part of that person could be reimbursed by some of those grants, for sure. You cannot get reimbursed for writing a grant.
No.
And even some of the state grants allow some reimbursement for some administration expenses, for sure. It's a good question.
Anyone else?
That's how Shelby can afford to do all the grants that we've had, is we've been able to receive reimbursements from the state and the feds to manage those grants.
Other questions?
Yes, sir.
Richard, I wonder on the, we apply for those grants,
Mhm.
the housing project you're talking about, I understand the revenue coming back. The township park, you get the grant money to build it, but what about the long-term maintenance and upkeep?
So the park, for example, the township board has agreed to put aside $12,000 a year in perpetuity to a capital fund. So when the roof goes out or it needs a new sprinkler system, the next generation, when I'm dead and buried, are gonna have money to have it fixed. So put in a long-term investment, and it's simple money management, right? You have a long-term investment fund that's gonna really essentially, by the time they need it, all but double the fund balance. So, you know, and I would urge other townships, I can't speak for the rest of the county, but I would urge other townships to do the same thing. The same thing with road bonds, right? When you're doing a road bond, you know, at 1% interest and you're beating inflation, when road work goes up 8%, that's a smart financial decision too.
Exactly.
And when you're talking about your own fund balance, you know, you should be looking at, you know, 18 months operating as compared to 3 years. Right? Because those dollars need to go back into the county to be, you know, to be spent in infrastructure or whatever. So,
Anyone else?
I'm a finance geek, by the way, so that's what I do.
Thank you, Mr. Raphael.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, sorry, Curtis, did you want to say something? Sorry, I was
Oh, sorry, you're
the most
back again.
important person.
It's all right. Curtis Burdett from the Oregon Economic Alliance. Just adding to that, like to the question of the grant, like the EPA grant that the latter and the county are applying for would have grant administration money that would come back. Fishbeck would get some of that. Some of that could come to the county and cover my role in that through OCEA, or if the county were involved in that could cover that piece there. And as the county is well aware, as commissioners know, this grant funding that we've seen come down from the federal dollars we're more than halfway past it. You know, we've got one more year of ARPA. The IRA money that's coming down has a couple more years beyond that, but it's going to get very competitive for governments and nonprofits in going after the grants and being able to find those opportunities to support private investment and public investment into projects. And so it will get much more competitive going forward. So the advantages of having additional support at this time is we're going to see a lot more competition and we see it already in these grants where people are applying for millions towards where they have 10 million available, but that's going to get even more intense as the federal dollars that were supplied and have kind of come down to the local governments and local agencies. We're more than halfway through that, and that's going to dry up very quickly.
A great valid point, and I apologize that I didn't bring that up. So Shelby in 22, 23, and 24, we were winning one of every 3 grants we put in. We put in a lot of grants. Last year, or excuse me, this year, we're at 1 in 12. And we're forecasting a lesser number, you know, moving forward in 25. So we're gonna literally have to put in, you know, triple the amount of grants to win. And they all run on a bell curve, right? So someone smarter and brighter and able to write the grant and gain more points, even though our project may be more worthy. It's not about what the project is, it's about how you write that grant and appeal to the grant reviewers. So we're gonna have to put in literally triple the amount of grants to win the dollars back.
Correct.
All right?
Yes.
Matt, maybe both you gentlemen can answer a question for me. I know that at the present time, Fishbeck is working on one grant in the southern part of the county. I know that Prime Newhoff is working on one grant in the southern part of the county, or working with the governmental agencies. I know Fleece and Vandenberg is working on grants up in Pentwater. You know, so we have engineering firms that are doing, you know, grant writing now. I think it's only within the last few years that the engineers firms have gotten involved with those, you know, from my, you know, tenure. Is this something that these grants could be brought in-house instead of, you know, contracting out with engineering firms to do it? Is that the intent of part of this?
100% no. and you want to continue with the engineering, I'll give you a live example about that, sir, Mr. Walker. And I apologize, I interrupted you, keep going. Was that your end of the question, or?
No, that was, yes, it was,
Okay,
Richard,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Mr. Walker. So 150% no. And I'll give you a great example. You're right. Engineering firms over the last 3 years have put in the division to write grants. They write the grants, so if they're successful, they get the piece of the engineer, right? So they're creating revenue for themselves. The Shelby Road. Has anyone driven down Shelby Road and enjoyed Shelby Road? The new Shelby Road paved both east and from the highway. It's beautiful. So that was written by an engineering firm for an MDOT grant. That's a $1.6 million road, believe it or not. And the village is paying $200,000 for it, and MDOT is spending it. So the grant was written by the engineering firm, but probably more importantly, got Curtis involved, got myself involved, got the village involved, and a grant writer from the township to bring all the players together. So they wrote the basis of the engineering grant, and then the rest of the players, like Curtis, wrote the narrative behind it. So you got the engineering piece, and then you've got the narrative on why we need the grant. This is how many trucks. You know, I had an analyst work for a month to figure out how many trucks went up and down, you know, Oceana Drive, and where they were going to, and what states and what part of Michigan, etc. So you need the engineering firms to round out that grant. So you can have great narrative, lousy engineering, and you don't get the grant. You need top-notch engineering explanations as well as a great narrative to, and almost like you need an economist as well to figure out the data. We're working on, the county road commission is working on a multi-jurisdictional grant through the federal government. Lee's here for Crystal Valley, so it's going to be Crystal Valley, I think Shelby, and one other, I think Hart is involved. So a multi-jurisdictional grant that could be upwards of, you know, $8-9 million in road work. And you need engineering, you need the grant writer, you need the townships, you need the economists to figure out all the data. It costs you a lot of money to do a grant, and probably just as important to manage the grant, especially with it's federal dollars. Okay, did that answer your question?
Yes.
And I just want to thank the commissioners, and I know the economic development effort in Oceana County. I love to tell this story, and you're going to hear me say it tomorrow when the CEO of The Right Place is there from Kent County. The Right Place started in 1985. The economic development effort in Oceana County started here at the commission in 1980. So there has been 44 years of great work in supporting economic development, and that's why we're further ahead than some of the other rural counties surrounding us. And so just want to again thank you for the supporting OCDA and the admin help. And it's been a long journey that started before I got here, and I've been excited to be a part of it for the past 2 years.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment, please?
You can probably do that at the end of this committee meeting, for public comment.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Walker, transfer station scale.
Did we skip over the
Shelby Township.
Shelby Township request?
Yep. Sorry?
All right.
I did.
I didn't think we had amended the
I
agenda.
appreciate that.
Good to see you all again. It's been a minute. So again, I'm wearing my Shelby Township hat on. And as part of economic development, we are a go on building a 46,000 square foot enclosed community sports practice facility where children, adults, etc., can play in your packets. You should have a budget and a rough schematic of what it's gonna look like. It's being engineered as we speak. Let me rephrase that. The architects are finished, the engineers are doing their final phases. We're gonna begin construction May of 2025. 46,000 square feet, half turf, half courts. On the court side, 2 full-size basketball courts, 6 pickleball courts, and 4 volleyball courts. On the turf side, a full-size soccer field that'll double dip as softball, baseball practice nets for batting and pitching, as well as the wrestling team. Right now, the wrestling team in Shelby has their meets and practices in the cafeteria, so they're going to finally have the spot that they deserve. And then football practice, cheer practice, and then a full mezzanine 3-lane running track for kids that or adults that want to walk or run and train indoors. A bow simulator for hunters, and a golf simulator for golfers, so a couple of golf simulators. So it's a pretty nice facility. It's roughly about $8.5 million. It's all paid for between grants and donations. I'm short, I shouldn't say all paid for, I'm short $500,000, so I'm out fundraising like crazy. So I'm asking the county to take $50,000 of your ARPA, as you did for the park. We appreciated that, thank you. Take $50,000 of your remaining $600,000, I think, or is it $400,000? Sorry? 400, I apologize. Take $50,000 of your remaining $400 and slate it for the indoor facility. I think for the county to invest $50,000 of ARPA in a facility that's upwards of $8.5 million, that, to be frank, will put us on the map with regards to sports. It'll bring in different volleyball tournaments, basketball tournaments, things that our kids today travel to. If anyone has any kids that play sports, do a lot of traveling in the winter to other facilities, and now Oceana County will have its own facility. And then phase 3 of the park is we're currently out putting in grants for a community swimming pool. Not an enclosed community, but an outdoor swimming pool, open from let's call it Memorial Day to Labor Day, depending on what type of September. We have a couple of indoor pools in the community already, one at a hotel, one at a rehab facility. So, but we don't have an outdoor swimming pool where people can go and spend $5 and spend the whole day having fun and have a barbecue and lay out in the sun and just enjoy water sports. So that's phase 2 of it. So I'm asking for $50,000, which again, like a broken record, is a great return on investment for the county on infrastructure that's going to last, certainly our lifetimes and our next generation. So again, a generational spend that's going to put the county on the map with regards to sports and enclosed facilities. To put into perspective, the Whitehall one that was built with millage dollars and a bond was built for $21 million, and it's 42,000 square feet. So we're building one with no millage dollars for less money. We're putting a lot of lipstick on it. It's going to look great, but we're doing things differently and more economical. And again, a great investment in infrastructure. So I'm going to ask the committee to send an approval to the commission meeting to approve $50,000 of ARPA, if that's how it works. Questions?
It's wonderful.
I agree. We deserve it. Our kids deserve it.
It's our kids.
Our community deserves it. We've been, I don't want to say kicked around, but we've been
Poor forever.
Yeah, and people don't realize that we may be small, but we're just mighty as all heck, right? And, you know, I get emotional about the park and all these things, because it's about kids, right? I feel the same way about the Penn Water Bombs, so go Penn Water Bombs. Just want to throw that in there.
Yes, Mr.
Yes, sir.
I think, you know, we live in an area where we've got a great deal of pleasant weather outdoor recreation, but we really don't have anything for those winter months. And so health-wise for our kids, but also for our, you know, I could envision, I assume this is kind of open to
I say
I mean,
kids, I apologize.
I could
It's for-
envision, you know, retahirees walking that track on a daily
All day
basis
long.
and just getting their steps in and
All day long.
bringing their grandkids, you know, whatever after school. I think it's a great project. Just you know, Rothbury's looking at the same type of a different project, but the same type of idea. Just this indoor recreation that, you know, we can go walk to the beach and walk the trails all summer long, but in February that's not nearly as pleasant. So a good place for people to
I
go.
agree. I 100% agree. And I should have said that. It's for everyone. And I mean, today we have 1.6 miles of walking trails at the township park. And we see kids, grandparents, everyone walking the trails with the dogs. Pickleball courts are full. Men and women are fighting over the courts in the morning, every morning. But having that for the winter, I could see the pickleball courts being used by the group. People walking, just getting in exercise and feeling better. I forgot to mention there's a rock wall. So sort of as a feature of the indoor facility where kids can, and there's an internal playscape, so when young kids are watching their siblings play soccer, they can go on the playscape and hang out and do. And there's a mother's room, or I shouldn't say mother's room, a quiet room for parents that have infants and things like that want to, you know, have a quiet space around. So it really is going to be a community.
The plans look really nice.
They are nice.
Really nice.
Just so you understand, 500 responses from surveys of the community, and then we've had 2 community meetings with in excess of 200 people total at those community meetings. So the plan was developed based on community input. So we just didn't make it up. It was seeking input. And at the same time, we did our master plan, so that kind of fit in nicely with that.
Any questions or
It's
comments?
the job I don't get paid for that I work the hardest. So,
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Mr.
And I'm
Chairman.
sorry I skipped over you there.
that's all right. I was about to leave, I forgot.
No. All right, Mr. Walker, transfer station scales.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. This is something that has been on the drawing boards for Oceana County for the 14 years that I've been on the board. And we realized that in order for our transfer station to run as a business and not lose the money, we supplement the transfer station over 6 figures every year. And the big reason we have to do that is because it's arbitrary when somebody comes in with a pickup or when somebody comes in with a trailer, how much we charge them. And we've known for years that the only way you can run a transfer station properly is to scale them in and scale them out, and you charge for what they bring in. At the transfer stations that have there is a throwback from the people who will come in with a dump trailer loaded with shingles, because they may be charged $50 now. They go across the scale, having done that myself, where there is a scale, it's going to be $250. But the only way we can run the transfer station efficiently, whether we do it ourselves or whether we contract with somebody else to run the transfer station, like we've had a proposal for, is to have a scale put in. The price for the scale is $150,604. Now, it will also need the electrical run to it. for that. They will do the wiring, but the electrical will have to be run to it. But when you look at what we're subsidizing it for now, there's less than a 2-year payback. If we're actually charging for what it costs us on our tipping fees to have things renewed. That scale will pay for itself in 2 years or less. So I think we've kicked this around, not this board, but this has been kicked around as long as I've been on the commission and before I've been on the commission, that for $151,604, I would like us to enter into the contract with GR Meteorology out of Grand Rapids for the 50 by 11 scale. Mr. McCormick, did you have a chance to look at that bid?
I did.
You understand this a lot more than all the rest of us put together. Did it look like it was pretty?
Yeah. I think it's complete. You know, there's going to be, like you mentioned, the electrical. There's going to be a few things they're going to have some funding for the, you know, to get power. The other thing I looked at out there, the electrical service itself is pretty tough, so that should be redone if and when we do the scale project. That electrical service should get the attention.
And there is 3-phase electric at the DNR fire station next door. They have 3-phase in there. So how difficult it'll be, so that they've got a lot of power going into right next door, so it, you know, and it is Great Lakes Energy.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the scale doesn't take much power just to operate the scale itself, so it's just the underground and the wiring. You know, the building will have to be wired, and there's some existing electrical. I think will have to be relocated to get that the site work completed.
From a professional standpoint, you know, I'm gonna put you right on the spot this morning. From a professional standpoint, being in a business where you use scales, does it make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Long past due.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Can't work.
I would like to see us move forward with the scales. Next week, I will go to the Ferry Township Board, as we know they own the property, and I will present them with the bids we have and tell them that we want to start working on the project. And every time I've been there, and Phil snuck out too quick for us, he was there several times also. But every time we've talked to Ferry Township, they said just go ahead and do it. But we want to make, you know, get the final blessing from them because they do own the property. And it's only, you know, 5 days away till they have their meeting.
I ran a couple other numbers on there and I read through the quote pretty well. I mean, there's some permit fees and some soil testing. And about the safety barricades, I just put some generic numbers in. The electrical supply, I kind of figured somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 to $5,000, depending on what they charge you on the 3-phase. Nothing, they had disposal of spoils on site. I didn't put anything in for that. Drainage work, not sure what has to be done around the scale or what basically the topo is on that area.
Yeah, it's a little tough to fit in there, but it's just a matter of grading the site, so it's gonna be a little bit of dirt to move.
I put $1,000 in. These are just estimates. And then the building that they were talking about, which would retain the basic scales, and they had electric, plumbing, need to be installation and HVAC in there. I think the building was 156 square feet. And I just estimated that at about, I think it was $50 a square foot. If you want to finish the inside of it, which you probably need to do, added about 15 grand to the cost of everything. That would be the electrical, dirt moving. You know, this is a rough calculation.
It has also been stated that it might be easiest that you get a prefabricated building set on the slab there.
Yeah, and that could be. I mean, you can get some stuff with insulation already in it, maybe.
Well, even if it had to be insulated, you know.
Yeah, Yeah, I think prefab is definitely the way to go with it. You can bring it in, park it, you're done.
Yeah, bring it right in.
Anyway, sorry.
Any other concerns or comments? I guess I'll ask, there are questions for me?
I'd just like to say thank you that it's come to this point and we can make that decision and get it over with.
It's been long, it's time coming, that's for certain, and we are paying a lot of county dollars that should be paid out.
And we're cleaning up a mess.
Right.
It's been a mess.
Yeah. I concur.
Guess we can we'll take care of it this afternoon then. Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
Did you, just to let you know that Mr. Walker had, asked that I contact the road commission and talk with Mark Timmer about it too, and, several points about the electric, talked about, the time frame for freeze from December to April. We talked about that a little bit, and about slope, which you guys were just talking about, so.
And Mark said that if there's anything that we want him to stop on and look at when they get started, that he'll be willing to go and look at it. So we have two people that can probably keep an eye on it for us to make sure it does.
You'll just volunteer. That resolution, you wanna do that for maybe like 170 to cover anything, or do you wanna go specifically with the contract for right now and then?
We probably should do it. I don't know what the extras are going to be, but there's going to be, why don't we do it, and then we increase it to that.
Yeah, I think 170,
But let the resolution say that the scale will be 136.04, because I included the price of a $21,000 scale house, and I think we can do better on that, just having a slab put in and do that ourselves. But we can set that scale house before they do all of their wiring, so they can wire to it. If we put it on a cement slab, we'll have a conduit put in underneath to come up into the building, so they can just run their wiring inside. Make sense, Joel?
No.
Yeah, just run a conduit in there so they can put it in.
As long as we're covered for any additional, unless you wanna go a little higher with it, just to, not to exceed or.
Yeah, 136.04 for the scale, and a total 170 for the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
What,
I think that's. Yes.
Where's this money coming from? Is this gonna be?
Capital improvements we're talking about.
Capital, yeah.
Correct, Steve?
Yes, when we talked about this during the budget last year, we were gonna take it out of the building improvement fund.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? Administrator Biard, peer group contracts for monumentation.
So these are, two contracts that we, were informed that need to be, approved by the Board of Commissioners, for the remonumentation grant. We were contacted and asked to have these approved at the next meeting, so, that's what these are for the.
Same thing we do every year.
Yeah, and those just run through, the end of this year, December 31st.
Yeah, and it's reimbursed by the
It's all
state.
reimbursed, yeah. All right, Administrator Biard, continuing on, appointment to Materials Management Planning Committee, County Cargill, Township, Treasurer Golden Township.
Yes, we had, for the Materials Management Planning Committee, we had two positions for, a municipality, and then, two others from a business, and we have, with Connie's, we have filled the two for municipalities, and we've got one for businesses. We still have one business open. So Windsor Dick will be getting a hold of these people and starting the process for the planning committee meetings.
Questions or comments? All right. Continuing on, Commissioner Erickson, Crystal Valley Dam discussion.
Yes, sir. We'll be having Mr. Tiffany join us here by Zoom. Everyone has in their hands a letter dated September 30th from Mr. Tiffany in regards to the work that we've done out there to remediate the problems that are within the structure. All the concerns are itemized in this letter from Mr. Tiffany, and it is our desire to continue to permit with Eagle and to explore the costs that would be involved in repairing the dam and to remove the sediment.
Mr. Tiffany, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
And I might add that Mr. Tiffany is not your typical dam engineer. He's a first-hand one-man show. And, you know, we've looked at the earlier condemnations on the dam itself. I sought Mr. Tiffany's experience through a gentleman by the name of Jim Bernier. Jim Bernier ran all the hydroelectric dams in Michigan for Consumers Power. So when I got Mr. Tiffany's name as a recommendation to take care of this little small pond out in the valley, I was very pleased to meet a gentleman that put his waders on and grabbed a drill and jumped in the water and did all of the structural analysis that's necessary to repair a historic WPA structure, one of only two in the county of Oceana. And I'll let you take it, Mr. Tiffany, to tell him how we can save this thing.
Okay, have you all had a chance to read the letter and look at the appendices?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so basically what we're dealing with is a situation in which, you know, water has been leaving that joint in the downstream apron, taking some soil with it. We have compromised soils under the spillway itself. The spillway is very solidly constructed concrete. Structurally it's holding up very well. The underlying soils are not to the point where they're creating settlement or other issues with the spillway itself, but we need to address the situation and do some remediation to preserve it for the long term. And there are two aspects to the plan. One is to create an impermeable barrier somewhere in the crest of the embankment in a direction transverse to the direction of the spillway itself. That impermeable barrier will reduce the any flow of water through the embankment itself, and which is quite impermeable right now because of the low density of the soil underlying the spillway. So that's the first aspect of it, is creating that impermeable barrier. And then the second aspect will be doing soil remediation under the spillway itself to ensure that the spillway has adequate support and is going to be supported in the long term and won't be affected by potential settlement and potential cracking of the spillway itself caused by that settlement. So, are there any questions?
Where do we go from here?
So my recommendation is that we need to follow two parallel tracks. One, we need to work on completing the preliminary plans and submitting those to the Eagle for permitting. That's going to be a several-month process. But in parallel to that, the county should be working on identifying a source of funds to accomplish the work. My recommendation, I think, a good timing for the project will be next summer season when rains are diminished in the months of July and August. Those would be a good time frame for completing the construction of the project, and certainly we should have permits in hand by that time.
And Mr. Tiffany, as far as, going back to our original conversations, when we spoke of sheet steel, we spoke of local contractors in the area that have installed sheet steel all around Kentwater Lake and up and down Lake Michigan that are available locally. Hardman comes to mind immediately. Also, Kenny Adams, Dan Halleck, Wadles. There's many different contractors locally, so we'd be pursuing those repairs done by local contractors, correct?
Certainly, there will be several different aspects of work. The soil densification under the spillway itself will be somewhat specialized. If there are local guys that want to take that on, like Hardman, that'd be great. But it's that aspect of the work is quite specialized, so we may end up with a contractor that's not local for that work, but there will be other aspects of the work that can certainly be done by local contractors, for sure.
And also we had the discussion when the Department of Interior came and looked at that structure serving as an eel barrier.
Yep. That's my understanding that they consider that to be important for blocking the eel movement upstream.
And also, Jim, you and I talked the other day about Eagle and the $14.1 million allocation for reducing dam risk. Are there any of those dollars left?
So the Eagle has been providing opportunities for new applications each year, and so that's a recurring opportunity, and we just need to get an application in, based on the cycle that they operate on.
And could you tell the board a little bit about your saving the Boyne Dam?
So I've been involved with work for Boyne Mountain since 1999, and I got involved with their hydroelectric dam in 2017. Actually, I did a little bit of work with their spillway gate before that, but in 2017 we entered on a multi-year project to submit an application for a subsequent license. And we've gone through that entire process, and we're just waiting on the FERC to rule on the license for that. But in the course of the work we did, we determined that there were some dam safety concerns for the dam, and that led to a couple of significant projects. One of the main projects was remediating the stream banks downstream of the dam, immediately downstream of the spillway and powerhouse. That was a good-sized project, and then in 2023, we basically rebuilt their left embankment, 500-foot long embankment, and increase the factors of safety to meet the FERC guidelines for the dam. So I think Boyne has, I haven't added it up, but I think they've spent over $1 million so far on improving their hydroelectric dam, and they're in good shape with it right now.
And also quite a bit of our conversation, I don't want to damn the science, But what I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about the fish and the pond temperature. My understanding is we've got a 15-degree variance between the inlet and the spillway. And if we pump the mud out of that, what could we expect for fish habitat?
So if you're considering doing a dredging project, of course you're gonna deepen the impoundment and provide cooler temperatures at a lower level. You know, obviously, working with fish is not my specialty, but my recommendation is that it's something that requires a scientific study, and just looking at a couple of data points on a warm sunny day is not going to give you the big picture. If you're wanting to do some type of evaluation, then you should do you know, have equipment on site where you're doing continuous monitoring of temperatures both upstream and downstream of the impoundment to really determine what impact you might be having on stream temperatures. But it's not something you want to do just discrete data points on a single you know, summer day. It's something that you need to take more of a comprehensive look at.
And what's your feelings, Mr. Hardy?
Paul, if I may, you mentioned, Mr. Tiffany, preliminary engineering plans that can be submitted to Eagle. Is there an additional cost for those?
No, we're covered right now with the engineering work. You know, down the road, when we get into the specialized work of improving the soil under the spillway, there might be some specialized surveying work or testing work that needs to be done, but for the moment, I'm not needing anything additional from my services.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Walker?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Beggs?
Mr. Tiffany, so back to the dredging, the $600,000 to $700,000 estimate you have is just the repair of the dam. That doesn't do anything with the impoundment, correct?
Yeah, that does not include any dredging costs.
Okay, all right. I don't think I have any other questions for Mr. Tiffany. I think the report looks good. I have some comments about the rest of the project, but we'll get to those in a little bit, in my opinion.
Any questions, Mr. McCormick?
You mentioned the money available with Eagle. Who would apply for that? How would that application be completed?
So the pre-application is pretty straightforward. That's something that the county can work on with my assistance. It's not a big process.
Well, my understanding was that there were no grants available for repair.
It's changing. The picture's changing.
Okay.
You know, and as dams are not what they were a year ago in Michigan, and Consumers is going to look at $770 million from the feds to fix our century-old dams.
Okay.
So it's not what it had been.
So this grant then would go through Eagle?
That's probably what is that dam though? That's power generation,
These are consumer high risk, yes. And honestly, you know, if we had a 14-inch rain out in the valley, that dam would probably still be standing there if it were even washed out. The structure is so strong. It was built with poured concrete. It is an arch that is so strong that it is lacking some material under it for support.
Is there any way that we could check to see if those funds would be available through Eagle?
Yeah, I don't know who the funds came from, but I do know that there were two, and I thought three, but I know two for sure. Small dams in the Upper Peninsula that were funded by the state for revitalization.
I guess my question would, Mr. Tiffany check on that for us, or do we need to do it with
I can do
the
that.
administrator?
Windsor Dick has actually reached out and,
Okay.
about some grant availability, so, I can check with the area.
Okay, thank you.
And that Windsor Dick reached out about this dam
About a grant.
for
That was
this dam?
Not specific to this, she's just letting us know that there were some funds available, for removal, if the board chose to go that route. And I said there was not, there was no decision that had been made through the board. And I said we would be in contact, but we can check with her on any other types.
I think the administrator can contact Windsor Dick to see if there's any grants available for, restoring the dams. And, you know, it may be such a thing that we could use Windsor Dick. You know, we've used them for grants before.
Well, the fishery division too, Michigan Fishery Division had grants available at one time.
And Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah, Fish
and Wildlife was who did some of the grants in the UP.
Yeah, and it's a very.
Excuse me. I know they did it on the Black River over by Ironwood, and they were doing that because of the lamprey, the sea lamprey. When you get on the Great Lakes, close to the body of water itself, some organizations don't like dams. Fish and Wildlife likes dams because the sea lampreys can't bypass them. And they're very easy to treat.
We need to check on that.
When they're all in one spot.
Yes.
I just make one comment on the Windsor Dick situation. They're in tune with what's going on in our county as far as where they can be a help. So, you know, they know we've got this Crystal Valley question. So when they see something that may be applicable, Phil, who used to be on that board, and myself, we're keeping them up to speed on where our situation. You know, they were heavily involved in Marshville Dam. And they're just keeping their ears open for anything that might be helpful for us with projects we've got going on. So I can hear the temperature in the room being a little condemning toward Windsor Dick. They're just keeping their ears open for projects, you know, that they may be able to help with some of the resources coming across their desk. So.
Well, and I'd also like to add with that, you know, the Marshville Dam project, beautiful new bridge, and there's been a little change out there over my lifetime now. But, and Gary will also add, hopefully we'll hear from him a little bit, but, you know, we talked about a fishing platform out at Marshville and driving pilings into the ground. Years ago it had been done with, you know, scrap well pipe. But, you know, they're looking to spend $100,000 for pilings for a fishing platform. And the money evidently is available to do that through CRC. Tremendous amount of money put into that dam that is there no more. I wish there were parts of it left for posterity, but looking at the dam that we've got in Crystal Valley, you know, SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, also has an interest in this. I've begun conversations with them because it is a WPA project from the 1930s, the Franklin Delano Roosevelt era. A Great Depression, we were seriously out of work. A lot of people needed food on their table, and this dam served as a work project along with our Hart Post Office has a fresco on the wall that was part of the WA process. But if everyone is familiar with in Ludington, you know, the Big Bathhouse is another WPA CCC project. This has significant historical qualities to it, along with being on the early Indian reservation. The people of the valley don't want to see this thing removed. It's been a hot potato now since its inception. The dam itself was built as a county park by our road commission. Hot potato there. It went back to the township and then it came back to the county. Now the county has the problem. If we were to drain that body of water, we also would have to look at who owns the land underneath it and how many attorneys are going to get involved in this. if we keep the water in the pond, we'll never have to explore that courtroom. So there are some aspects in retaining this that we should consider very important, and we have not exhausted funding possibilities. You know, the SHPO office is aware of it, and Molinar's office will be aware of it, and there may be federal dollars to save WPA projects in our country.
Yes, Mr. Biggs.
Just a couple comments. You know, I would say, Mr. Erickson and myself, we probably disagree on the historical value. Certainly this is a historical project, but what implications does that have for its current situation? We would weight that different. So I'll just state it that way. So I guess I was just looking over the Spicer report, and I think this indicates that we've had 2 quality engineers look over the project. I think it's worth noting that they've come to the same conclusion. So the Spicer estimates, option 1 was to rehab the dam, $300,000, and then if sheet piling was needed, another $300,000. So Mr. Tiffany and the Spicer group has come up with the same number, $600,000 to $700,000 to repair the dam. Spicer, you know, we didn't ask Mr. Tiffany for replacement or removal costs. Spicer estimated replacement of the dam at 1.3. These are all their high numbers. Removal of the dam, $500,000, and we know there's possible funding there. Regardless of what repair option we do, Spicer's also indicated to us that with new incoming rainfall requirements for dams, our dam does not meet the proposed new standards. Will it survive? Probably. Does it meet can we fix this dam now in its current form and still get a thumbs up every year or whatever, every 5 years from Eagle? We're still gonna have that deficit that the dam doesn't meet the current requirements. My understanding is I don't think they are current requirements, but they're proposed requirements for rainfall. And then funding, you know, none of those options talk anything about dredging. So according to Spicer, high number, $300,000 to dredge it, possibly another $300,000 if we had to haul it to a landfill. So now we're at $1.2 million between repair and dredging, to still have the same thing that we have now, which is good. It is good to have a pond there. It is used for recreation by many people in that area and countywide. But where does $1.2 million come from? And maybe there are some options out there from the state or the feds. That'd be great. Because that, as Mr. Raffaelli said, those are tax dollars, but if we can get them back into our county, that's great. But out of the county budget, what department do we shut down to fund that type of repair on the dam? I don't know. So that's my piece. You know, I think we've got two engineers that have looked at the issue. Mr. Tiffany certainly did a deeper dive than we hired Spicer to do. Essentially came up with the same solution for a similar dollar amount. And where's it going to come from?
We're not worried right now about where it's going to come from so much as getting those bid numbers back in so that we can have a better informed decision made, and then we will definitely pursue those. And if Mr. Burdette is going to be involved with extra help and we're going to pursue these things, we will pursue those, and we will speak with SHPO, and we will speak with Congressman Molinar's office, and we will do everything necessary to preserve that dam as a Depression era.
So is there any more cost moving forward to start a conversation with Eagle on permits and
this is why we're here today.
I think Mr. Tiffany said that he has all of his data that he needs to apply for those permits, so it appears as though it would just be the permit application fee.
He's nodding his head, yep.
Well, I'd be comfortable moving forward with the question, as long as it's understood that it's not a yes to fixing the dam. It's just a yes to the next stage to find out what's available.
I am still in the same opinion as I was when we started this process. I would like to see hard, cold facts and bids from the people that are in that business on how much it would cost.
Let me ask one quick question. To submit this out for bids, do we need the permit?
No.
Or can we submit those out?
Yeah,
No.
we should go through the permitting process first.
Yeah.
We do the permitting process first.
Okay.
They'll tell us what has to be done.
Okay.
Would be my guess. Is that correct? Eagle could have some stipulations on repairs or what is needed that could affect the bidding process?
It could be that they want us to add something or change something. It's just better to wait until you have the permit in hand, and then you don't have a change order situation with the contractor afterwards.
Okay.
One more question. Mr. Tiffany, do we sour the pot with Eagle if they grant us a permit and we decide not to do anything with it?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And what I also must add, and you guys are gonna get tired of it, but we had $5.3 million of our money come through this county, of which now we have over $6 million in excess funds in our accounts. We displaced dollars that would have been spent through normal budgetary items with ARPA money. ARPA money was designed to do things that probably never would have happened. This is one of those things.
I do want to remind you, Paul, that all the ARPA money that was spent was approved unanimously by this board.
I do realize that, Mr.
Okay,
Hardy, but my point is that.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
We have to keep in mind that when the auditors told us that we had $6 million in excessive funds, when I asked the question of the auditors, they said that has to be used for operating funds until the taxes come into the next year.
That's not $6.5 million of money just floating out there with no purpose.
That's
$6.5 million of cash on hand to cover budgeted items.
Yes,
that excess funds is not to the general public, and honestly, when I first heard it, that sounds like cash money we're just sitting on and we don't know what to do with it. That's $6.5 million that are budgeted every year to operate this county.
Till the tax comes in for the next year.
I understand that, but no, getting back to the ARPA money, Craig, yeah, I made 2 applications, got two turned down letters. I don't know how many applications that we fielded for the ARPA. Hundreds, and none of them got funded.
Quite a few of them.
Well, I know of a few that didn't. And also, you know, the top 2 lines on that report, those 2 things, the jail nurse was a good thing, I get it, you know, and mental health is always an issue that we need to be concerned about, but you know, we heard it here again this morning. We're looking at a $6 million facility on the west side. We're looking at $3 million at Marshville on the west side. We paid money to dredge the Pentwater Harbor for businesses of Pentwater so they could get their boats in and out. And, you know, what have we done for the east side of the county? Mr. McKean has given us all a letter of need for 2 of our parks. Everybody shakes when we talk about $100,000 in parks, but we have no problem, you know, spending $100,000 for a fishing platform out at Marshville. I think we need to get all these dollars in perspective. A new Super Duty will cost you $100,000 right now in a heartbeat, and if you went up the road commission, you'll see $500,000 dump trucks that we've got in the barn up there. So $500,000 isn't what it used to be. It's not what it used to be. We've spent $500,000 in the last year on newspaper. I used to think $1 million was a lot of stuff, but it's not what it used to be. I know for a fact. So I think what we need to do is get those bids back hard and fast, get the nuts and bolts of it done. There's enough sheet steel around Pentwater Lake that Irvin Youngstrom and Ronnie Seahawk drove in there with Hardman. This is not rocket science. It's just fixing an old dam.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes, Mr. Walker.
For my thoughts on this now, I am in favor of having Mr. Tiffany submit the application to Eagle.
Yes.
And get that see if that application gets approved. You know, and I realize there is a fee to submit that to Eagle, because I've done it myself before. And to get that back, and then if we get it back, let's put it out, you know, and, you know, put it out this winter and get bids on it and see what the numbers look like.
Yeah.
And then as Mr. Morris reminded us all the time, we could make a data driven decision on where we go.
Right. Okay.
And I'm willing to support that this afternoon.
I agree.
Anything further, Mr. Tiffany?
No, not at the moment.
Thanks for stopping
Thank you,
in.
Mr. Tiffany. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Yard, administrative review of selected claims for payments and administrative report.
So the claims have been provided for you. And the change was made to the indigent defense line, which was $99,000. It should be $9,087.
Thank you.
I thought it was a good month for Mr. Hayes.
So did I, but I spilled my coffee when I saw it.
So that is
For
the
everyone
fix.
in the audience, there was a decimal got placed over a little too far.
Okay, the budget report has been provided to you as well.
Yep.
That was in your packet. Does anybody have any questions on that?
If I may, Mr. Hardy?
Yes, please.
For me, that budget report, it would suffice for me if I only got the budget report that the line items are way over percentage-wise so far this year. You know, those, you know, all of them, you know, if they're under budget, I have no concern about it, but it's the ones that are over budget. And if I got that report that just had, you know, the ones that were over, it'd be easier to pick them out and easier to look at them.
I kind of look at the ones that are under as well to see what some of the numbers were for savings.
I mean, I can add that report that you're asking about and
To it.
pull
Oh,
those
that'd
out.
be great.
Yes, yes.
Pull those out for you.
You know, sometimes it's not like the Community Mental Health Board, that when I have a meeting monthly, I usually get 150 or 160 pages that go along with it that I have to read. You know, but if we highlighted the ones that are concerned, you know.
Yeah.
Or I can easily
Just
highlight those ones.
Yeah.
However it is to do it, to me,
That'd be great.
Okay.
Make it easy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then, just to follow up with a few things that, we talked about during budget time. We were talking about a vehicle for emergency management. And Ryan and I have been talking about the, Trailblazer. And, it looks like that would be our best route, is giving that Trailblazer to, our emergency manager. And, hold on a second, I'm trying to turn this down a little bit. So on top of that, that would be $3,900 a year to cover that lease for that Trailblazer. That would take out, there would be a reduction of $23.28 in travel. That would cover part of that, and then on top of that, he has the ability to apply for $1,440 through grant funds to cover part of that cost as well.
So budget neutral, actually, big budget positive.
Very close, yes.
Yeah, I would think that particular vehicle would be much more suited for one person at one time. Yeah, other than, You know, if a detective was using a vehicle like that, there's not much room in it for them to put their things in.
No, I think that sounds like a reasonable.
Okay, I was gonna talk a little bit about Ricotta, but I'll let you talk about that, Ryan, cause that's really kinda your wheelhouse and the follow-up that you sent yesterday.
Sure.
But, hold on just a second. So, I've been sending out information with regards to the animal control vehicle. I don't know if you wanna talk a little bit about that, Mr. Walker, because I've, been forwarding some of that on to
You
you.
know, none of these things are gonna happen till the first of the year.
Right.
You know, either one of them. So I think we're still better off with the animal control to look at, and I understand, what the animal control said about having the modular unit to go on, you know, they really wouldn't work for them as well. I think we should probably look at state purchase. I think the price that came back from Enterprise to buy the vehicle, we can buy one off the lot for pretty much the same price. So we should look at state purchase to see what the price is on that. And the other one, Ryan's letter explained everything to me that I needed to know about the question that came up. It was done very well. It was done very well with that. Understood. And Ryan, so you know, I brought that up because I was familiar with the people from Ludington Police Department who told me that's what they went to, and they love the replacement every 3 years.
You're referring to, I'm sorry, which topic are we talking
The
about?
Axioms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Axiom cameras and tasers.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're on a program that you're replaced every 3 years.
It's,
you know,
it's a great program.
But you know, you answered the question for that. But I think it would be worthwhile for us to go. You and I can talk later if the other board members don't, and we'll come up with what we think is the best way to go, best place to get a vehicle for the animal control. We're not gonna go till the first of the year anyway.
Okay.
Maybe such a thing, we'll get it ordered if there's a long delivery on them, but we don't want it to come in before the first of the year.
Okay. Jessica and I met with, Brown & Brown about the health insurance. There is a 4.07% increase, and we have asked them to go back and make some adjustments to get those costs down a little bit for us. So they're taking a look at that, and we'll be coming back to the board with.
And as what I shared with you, District and Health Department had a 2% increase this year.
Yeah. I sent out an email yesterday with regards to the West Central Michigan County Alliance meeting coming up at the end of the month in Lake County. If you could let me know if you will be attending that, so I can get those reservations back. And then the only other thing I wanted to point out is that Paul had talked to me about the a publication, and we reached out to the Herald about the QR code that's actually in the paper. The QR code does not work. We received something from them prior to that publication. The QR code was working at that time, but the one that went into the paper does not. The concern was that because the QR code was not working, that we would have an issue because we have to have a public notice in the paper for that. The QR code was added, so that wasn't something that had to be done. So we're okay there, but we are working with the Herald about why that QR code was not working.
And also, you had brought up to us before that we don't have to print the whole document.
Correct.
So because we don't have to print the whole document, we're probably safe with that QR code.
Yeah.
If not, I'd rather have it so people could pull it up.
Right.
But.
Well, and Mr. Beggs, you had brought that up, the QR code, and we were more than happy to add that code to 14,000 papers last week, of which they were happy to add that code at a cost for 900 households. And it doesn't work.
But I think the notice still had a link, and I mean, we gave him 3 different ways to get a hold of that report, and it is unfortunate. It must have been a print quality issue or something with the journal.
But I had somebody reach out to me yesterday and ask me for a copy of it, and I just gave them the link I copied the link and sent it off to them, so.
It just creates a lot of confusion.
Sure.
I mean, you know, you open up an envelope and you can't read the letter.
Right.
What are we doing?
And that's that.
Okay.
I think.
All right, moving on, department head reports. Under Sheriff Schiller.
If I could steal a couple minutes of your time. Morning. Just wanted to give you guys some follow up on a few of the items that we've been working on over what it seems like a long period of time. The uninterrupted power supply for the data center in the sheriff's office it's finally been completed, and we're online. It's working. So hopefully having that in place for the generator replacement that's due to happen this week yet. Tomorrow morning, they're supposed to set the generator on the pad. Tomorrow morning, they poured the pad earlier this week, and so that's moving along, and we're hoping to have a cutover the week of the election week. So knowing that it's election week, they wanted to have a transition on the 5th, and we thought that Amy might have some issues with that. So
maybe.
So we're working through some just timing and logistics, but that should all be taken care of here yet before middle of November. They're going to take some transformers off from a pole out from the sheriff's office on Lincoln Street and put a ground pad transformer, and at the same time the city's going to do this. I know a guy. So anyways, we're just going to kind of make it all happen at the same time. With that said, there's 49 in jail this morning, and it is what it is with 49 people living in your place 24 hours a day. We had a plugged toilet recently that ended up in some leaks, several leaks downstairs in the basement, and it was on the administrative side of the house, so it wasn't necessarily in the jail, but the cast iron piping in the basement is not so cast anymore, and the auger went through the pipe, so we had to have that fixed. And we're just dealing with some things like that, and some valves in the jail have been causing us great grief that hopefully we can get replaced, but it is original equipment, so it's lasted a good long time, but now it needs to be replaced. With that being said, there's some projects the city has been taking on, some sidewalk projects. Really is really what they're working on. They were around the building yesterday, and we were looking at the concrete in front of the sheriff's, right in front of the sheriff's office, the sheriff's carport specifically. It's upheaved and cracked, and as they were looking at the concrete out front of they were taking the sidewalks out right in front. And this is not on your agenda, so I'm just throwing it out there to you kind of today. We asked them yesterday, hey, what would it cost to get this replaced all at the same time if you're taking this concrete out, to have that pad replaced and taken out at the same time? And they came up with $4,900 and some change. There's a couple of pictures here. I'll pass it around. I'm still working on a funding vehicle for it, and so I'm just going to, full disclosure, tell you I don't have it paid for or a solution to pay for it quite yet this morning. But this would probably have to be a project that we would have to move on sooner than later to line it up with what the city's doing. Wadle Stabilization is who the quote is from, and they're the ones who are doing the work for the city, who will be here you know, and they're working in the area already, so it's something we have to move on sooner than later. But I don't have a immediate funding source for it, but yeah, out of my budget at least.
Couple things, Ryan.
Sir.
And when I used to walk up into the jail, the curb on the sidewalk going up into the jail had a big piece of concrete broken out of it, which I've always wondered if it wasn't a trip hazard. If they're doing sidewalks there, I think it would be reasonable to have them cut out a couple sections of that sidewalk and ramp that down to the road, so you had a wheelchair accessible to come up from the road up into the jail and take that curb that's broken there out at the same time, because it's right in front of the walkway.
You're talking on Lincoln Street, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the step up?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And that's one thing that I would ask for concurrence from the board members. If they're doing that, they can just cut that out and they can just go ahead, and that's not gonna be, you know, thousands of dollars, but it would be worthwhile to get that corrected if they're gonna be working right there. You might wanna ask them for a price for that.
I certainly can. They were literally ripping chunks out yesterday, and the sheriff pulled me out. And we looked at it out there, and Mr. Wadle himself was on site.
Yeah,
he worked it up real quick.
Rick knows all about. The other thing is, I'd like to compliment your jail lieutenant and your staff and corrections and the administration at the jail for the audit that you had from the Department of Corrections just recently.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and please take that back to your staff.
We will certainly do that.
That was a good thing.
Yep.
Lastly, I'd like to say if the guy wants to do the cut over on the 5th of November, we're gonna use his phone number for all of the concerns that come in over anything that goes south.
It's not happening on that day. We're not. Be the end of the week.
You know, I'll just add for the audiences, this was basically the Michigan Department of Corrections inspection that was completed at the Oceana County Jail. On the day of the inspection, Oceana County Jail was found to be in full compliance with administrative rules for jails and lockups. Great news.
It is good. It's a big thing, and it happens, you know, every year, and so it's. With a small facility, it's hard to meet all of the guidelines that the state puts out because of our size, because it limits our abilities to place people and move people and just services offered. So it is a big deal that a small place can meet the standards of a larger facility.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I did have the opportunity to look at the concrete that's in question with the sheriff this morning and Sergeant Bosley, and it is a trip hazard. We do have an access issue over there, and you know, I mean, whenever Ben Wadle's going by popping out pieces of concrete and he's gonna pour it tomorrow, it is sooner rather than later.
You wanna add that as a?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just cover that this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Would you like me to get this to Tracy?
We're gonna put a not to exceed on that because of the one that I wanted to add. We'll put the.
Yeah, that was, sorry, 4,991.
You can have it, Greg.
How much is that total cost?
That's $49.91, but that's not.
Okay.
That's not for what you're referring to.
Why don't we do it not to exceed $6,000? When we have a trip hazard, we need to take care of them.
They're there right
No
now.
matter where it is.
Well, and that goes, we were standing there talking, this goes all the way back to Warren Stanton. And then as we talked a little bit more, John Simmons, and then Craig pointed out a spot that might have been Fred Korb's motorcycle parking lot. So, you know, we're going back 50, 60 years now. And
I still get statements or bills from vendors that have Sheriff Fred Korb on there. I'm not one.
Well, nobody ever forgot Sheriff Fred Korb if they dealt with them.
Yeah, let's shut down the freeway is what we were talking about this morning.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Keene.
Good morning, well, almost afternoon. It's unusual to have the finance committee with so many parks and natural resources in the group this morning. It's good. I did want to say a couple of things about grants and getting grants. We've gotten a lot of grants to do the Marshfield Dam project. working with partners makes a world of difference. Relationships, the partners have relationships, that's why they use engineering firms. And because of that, they are able to get into the right people at the DNR or Eagle or whatever the case. But having a grant writer that has that relationship with that potential funding organization, we found to make a world of difference. Just a comment. I'd also like to say that the platform that's going to be going out at Marshville was completely funded, shouldn't say completely, but it was a Great Lakes Fishery Access Fund that CRA found, and they funded that. It's $123,000. The only match that we had out of that whole project for Marshville Dam is $10,000, as you know, out of the Parks Fund. We have our 288 fund is set up in such a way that it's a grant and match fund. It's money that's put in there, it's in perpetuity. If it's needed for a grant to be matched, that's what it's used for. We still haven't paid that out yet. That'll probably happen before the end of the year. But the good news is that the helicals that we intended to put in, because they cost so much, they've gone back to wood, which will similar to what the bridge is made out of, same material. And they're $30,000, not $100,000. So we're well within the budget. It's $123,000, as I said, to put that platform in. We don't have the money to do anything out of budget or out of a grant to do anything in the park. So this is all stream restoration. So that brings me to another reason. We had a parks meeting this past Thursday at 4:30 or so. Our meeting was adjourned. During that time, we had a discussion as to what we need to go forward. So what we're asking for is I put together a letter Thursday evening, submitted it to the administrator's office, and unfortunately I couldn't get on the agenda because the agenda had been written prior, which is good. But I've asked the letter to be distributed to each of the county board members. I'm not going to read it, but literally what we're asking for is ARPA money, basically to help fund projects that have been unfunded for a long time. As you know, our budget of this year, about $55,000 from the general fund, helps to cover a lot of our maintenance costs and items going forward. What we're never able to do literally is put together and cobble enough money to put together from time to time to do larger projects. We have three parks literally that have ADA accessibility superstructure that's been built over the years that's never been connected to the parking areas. Gales Pond is a classic example. We have a beautiful boardwalk that goes 1,200 feet through the marshland. We have no way to connect it literally from the parking lot for someone in a wheelchair or in a walker or what have you. So what we're asking for is something to be looked at, and what we're trying to do is get quotes for paving part of the parking lot to make it accessible for ADA. It also would clean up some of the area around that area. Marshville, I'll go back a little bit. We've had a wonderful last 4 years with Mr. Lundborg doing so much of the work out at the Cedar Point Park. Building a shelter was donated to the county. Largely the whole platform and the whole walkway to the beach was donated to the county. I don't know that we had more than $2,000 or $3,000 out of the general fund from parks in any of that money. What we're asking for is we want to put a 6-foot wide concrete walkway that would go from the parking area up to the shelter. And we also will need to work with the road commission. I've talked to Mark Timmer about this. And we want to do some paving in the turnaround that would allow better access for someone in a wheelchair or a van. And that was the whole premise of building that walkway out. Not so much the walkway, but the platform with the viewing platform of Lake Michigan. It's for ADA accessibility. Someone can come out in their van, get out of their vehicle, roll out onto a beautiful view of Lake Michigan. Additionally to that, the Marshville Dam project, we didn't have any money in grants that we could use because of the funding, the way it's laid out by the feds and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, what have you, to do with the parking lot. So the parking lot is basically a gravel parking lot now. It needs to be paved because that new boardwalk will be an ADA boardwalk, and we need to have accessibility to that. So those are three common areas that we're plagued with not meeting ADA responsibility. As I put in my letter, this basically ADA was signed by Herbert Walker Bush. in 1990 that the states will start to roll out the ADA accessibility. Unfortunately, in our county parks, we have none of our parks that meet the ADA responsibility. This would give us 3 that would put us right in the mix. The other part of it has to do with Black Lake. As you know, we hired a landscape architect several years ago, Pam Blau. She drew up a wonderful document that we are trying to follow. And part of that is basically building a boardwalk through the southern part of the Black Lake area. It's approximately 1,400 feet. We're looking to build a boardwalk through a beautiful mature forest. It would take us to the back of the property. This is a 100-acre park. Right now, we're only able to use about 30, 35, maybe 37 acres. It's a campground. What we'd be doing is creating a day-use park that would serve a good part of the eastern part of the county, which it seems to be underserved in a lot of ways. So the letter I wrote to you is basically supported on behalf of the Parks Commission. It's asking for $100,000 to be used with ARPA funds if we need to do these upgrades. Obviously, any money that's left over, and we have a very good opportunity to probably make it for less than $100,000, obviously go back to the ARPA fund, much like we did at the Gales Pond when we put in the new walkway there. We were able to put an additional $2,000 back into the ARPA fund. We didn't spend everything we had. So being frugal is important, but relationships are really something you need to really consider. So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Mr. McKean, we did have a commitment out of Black Lake on what, $65,000?
Yes, 69,000.
69,000, so we'd only be looking for an additional 30.
For Black Lake.
For this total request of 100.
And that's over and above the money we already have adopted for or put into Black Lake. There's 69,000, right, that we talked about, that's allocated for Black Lake to build a shelter and to build a parking lot and part of a boardwalk.
I'd have to look at the figure, but
That was the number you gave me.
yeah, there was still some funds available.
But the board's desire was to not build a pavilion and to divert those dollars towards this boardwalk. So if there was $69,000 already committed for Black Lake, we'd only be looking for another $31,000 balance difference.
For Black Lake, but the paving of Gales Pond parking lot, the paving of Cedar Point area, and also the paving of Marshville Dam, Ken Johnson from API is supposed to call me back. I haven't heard back from him yet, so I don't have a firm contract cost on what paving is going to be to do those parks. So I can't stand here today and tell you it's going to be X at this point. So that's where we're at. So it would be, we're asking for another $100,000 of ARPA money to build these upgrades, and potentially, obviously, if it's not needed, we would go back to the ARPA fund.
You follow that, Tracy?
69,000 there's left for Black Lake.
For Black Lake.
Yep.
So if we build a boardwalk instead of a pavilion, then we're only talking about the monies that would be necessary to make the other parks ADA accessible.
I think what Mr. McKean is saying, that he needs a total of $169,000 to do these projects.
The boardwalk, Paul, I believe somebody indicated about $60 a linear foot to build, 1,400 feet. You can kind of do the math, 69,000, and then do some type of a parking area. Probably not paved at this point, but maybe a solid gravel material that would allow access onto the boardwalk through the southern part of the park.
Correct.
As I said, I don't have the numbers. I don't have an engineer that we have that can give us those numbers. So that's the request. Appreciate your time and the opportunity.
Thank you, Gary.
Curtis. Curtis Burdette from the Economic Alliance. Just 3 updates to share. Very excited. Most of you will be joining us at the breakfast tomorrow. So we've got 120 people registered. I just got the latest list. So a few more purchases coming in. So we'll have a good crowd tomorrow. Really excited about that. Next week I get to go up to Crystal Mountain for the Merit Broadband Summit. So the Michigan Broadband Summit with Merit, and as you know, I sit on the task force for broadband. What we've been doing is just meeting with the internet service providers. So everyone who's a Great Lakes Energy customer is scheduled to get TrueStream. Everyone who's a consumer's customer, there's no timeline. There's different grants that people apply for, that these internet companies apply for, and they kind of lock in certain addresses in some of these, and no one else, even if it makes sense where they have customers nearby, no one else can get that grant to develop those areas. So a lot of it just comes from them working with each other. If they decide, hey, we don't want to develop this, we'll release this this street or this address and get that going. And so having these conversations with the internet service providers just gives us that opportunity to show that, hey, we're being very proactive in saying that we want everyone to have broadband as soon as possible in Oceana County, and that we are willing to do whatever it takes to work with them. Administrator Byard is on that, as well as just recently, earlier this year, Mark Timmer from the Road Commission joined, as whenever everything they're looking at for fiber is underground. And so working with the Road Commission so that there's opportunities to know what they need to do that. So every couple months we get together, we meet with the government relations or business relations person from an internet service provider, and so I'm excited I'll get a chance to meet with them a little bit more. They had a networking event the day before, but it didn't include the conference, and I said, well, if I'm going, I need to spend some time, talking to these folks and not just going for that hour and a half for networking. So excited about that. And then last thing, just an update on the Oceana County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. So we just approved a project to do some environmental assessment for the Village of Rothbury, the old Village Hall building. Just some phase 1 study there, and then other work as they have some development ideas. A lot of people interested in that property. So excited about that. We're 2 years into that grant. We have committed roughly $225,000 of the $300,000 grant. So we have that $75,000 left, and that's for environmental assessments. There's no cost to the property owner. So if there is something that has potential contamination, it doesn't have to be extreme like a gas station, but we have talked to a couple folks with gas stations, but if there is property that somebody wants to do that, there's no match required from the Brownfield Authority, and it's a direct contract with Fishback. So the Brownfield Authority just pays Fishback to provide those services based on approving the applicant, if the Brownfield Authority Board feels that's a good project. So we're coming along to well with that. We have about 6 months really, not a full year, because we have to spend all the money by the end of a year. So we're looking for a couple other projects. If there's a property with development opportunity, we're going to be looking for those because we want to make sure we spend all that money and use that to help future development and put that to good use. So lots of great things going on there too. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Michelle, Martin.
How's everybody today? Welcome, Mr. McCormick. We're just finishing up some projects, drain projects. Right now we're working on the crossing of Juniper Beach, replacing the culvert there with the Road Commission and out contracting with that. Working on our soil erosion. The main reason I wanted to say something today is because I was listening to the meeting because my office is empty right now. And I just wanted to point out, and I'm sorry that I wasn't here, and I might have missed some of it because I did get a couple of phone calls on Mr. Tiffany's report. One thing I wanted to make you aware of or make sure that this was happening is that Mr. Tiffany has an engineered plan already in place before he has to have that to submit to Eagle for this permit application. You have to have a plan to go with it. And I don't know if that's been done or not, but that's going to be a huge added expense if he hasn't already done that. Just to be aware of that before you make a decision on allowing the money. Since there is no RFP as to what is rural actually is at this point. So, like I said, I just wanted you to be aware of that. Okay? Thanks.
And department heads? If not, then moving on, public comment. Lee, did you?
Let me do my AARP shuffle up here.
ADA. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you do. I was gonna give you a little update on what's going on in Crystal Township so you guys could have a better handle on how to make your decisions. And Richard Raffaelli got up here and sparked an interest for me. It's a no-brainer to invest in the economic development. And let me give you an example. It's actually my report I was gonna give you on our little farm road project. When the county got back to me, it was $8.9 million to bring the roads up to usable state in our township that were selected by the farmers. All well and good. Of course, where are you gonna get $8.9 million out of 650 people? Not gonna happen. As you know, I started pounding on doors, every senator, congressman, representative, banker, dreamer. Oh, dreamer, wait a minute. That's what Mark Timmer called me when he got the letter back from MILE, which is Michigan Infrastructure Office, and they awarded us a value of about $80,000 to hire professional grant writers to apply for a RAISE grant, which will require no matching funds. And now the little farm road project has turned into nearly $22 million. So I asked the farmers, 6 of them agreed to a pledge. I asked for $5,000 apiece. They all gave, well, one of them wrote me a check for $5,000. He thought I was crazy. What are you gonna take on? You're gonna get what? Anyway, we've spent about $1,000 a piece, so roughly $5,000. And the way I do math, that's gotten us back $80,000 in value. And if that brings back $22 million to Oceana County, where do you get that kind of money? So that's where we're at with the Farm Road Project. The professional group, the first kickoff meeting, there were 13 people from around the United States that talked in a language way above my pay grade. So I only lasted for about 3 meetings and asked, well, just call me when you need me. So November 15th of all days is when they want to have a meeting with me to clarify where I got my data from. And I said, do you understand what happens on November 15th, for crying out sideways?
Isn't that a state holiday?
It is. So I informed the lady in Chicago that she needs to get tuned into Michigan, but I'll be there November 15th. That's the update. It looks like yesterday, you were there. I think we did $16 million worth of road work in Oceana County this year, a record. So can you imagine if we could throw another $22 million? And who came into town? Senator Bumstead, and said, wow, how are you guys doing that? How do we get other counties to do what you're doing? Be a dreamer, get out there. So I hope you'll consider what Richard asked for and give the man behind me a little support. It's gonna be a great investment. Other than that, everything's going great in Crystal Valley. A lot of new people on board, excited young people. We've got a lot of new roads going in, and things are really looking good. People are excited, getting involved, and saying nice things. That's all I have.
Thank you, Lee.
Before you go, no. Tell them sentiment about that dam in Crystal Valley.
It's interesting that you bring that up. It's a topic that I would like to find out more from all the people. And I've actually gone to the Planning Commission Monday night, and I'm always trying to learn more. And I said, how do we get the input from all the people? You know, people don't want to show up at meetings. I mean, we have a nice audience here today, but it's important. But how do you actually get the pulse on the people? What do they want? I have not met one person yet that doesn't want the dam there. I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't personally met one. I've had people offer, well, what can we do to help? Do you want us down to the meeting on Thursday? And I said, yeah, I'm not sure we're at that point. I think they know what I want, and I'm the spokesperson for the people. It's unfathomable to a lot of them why we would take it out. It's understandable. I know the society that we live in. I was at the new, what is it called? The Renewable Energy Act, which we are being pushed into making decisions by November 29th. come to find out, Michigan Public Service Commission still has a couple of open blanks on the rules, but yet we still have to have decisions on our part by November 29th. So in my last few years in office, I've learned that we get asked to do things that we're not quite ready to be formal about, but we have to keep moving forward. So, Paul, I don't have a great answer for you. I try to listen to what people want, and what everybody wants new roads. We have a road to the park and to our transfer station. We'd like to do recycling, but I kind of want to hear what you guys are going to do with recycling before we start investing time and energy. Everything takes money, everything. People's involvement. How do you get everybody in favor? I don't have the answer. Ask more questions. We're talking about doing picnics, gatherings. Somebody even suggested I become a preacher, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. Hallelujah.
Thank you, If some of us were gonna do that, if some of us were gonna do that, it'd have to be an outdoor church.
Indeed. Well, actually, one of my brothers became a Southern Baptist preacher, and he's not trained down in, of all places, Chimney Rock, which has been pretty heavily devastated. And they actually recorded some of his sermons. I must have taught him well. That's probably not the right answer.
Anyone else for public comment? If not, we will adjourn the meeting for the Finance and Administration Committee, and we're gonna take a short break. We'll run along, but we're gonna take a short break.
Or is our new executive director of the conservation center?
Just if we don't, I'm gonna just.
My wife's really
It's busy.
Alright, we'll get the date out sooner and, we'll start planning it as soon as this one's done, and hopefully have the date out there.